Everybody who's ever said they want to hang Christmas lights for a living probably gets the same look. It's like, you're out of your mind, right? How much money you think you're going to make? So last year we did $400,000 in revenue. We had $130,000 commercial contract for one job. Everybody can do it. So all of the newer companies that are coming around, they're all focused on first. It all starts with
What is going on, guys? It is Michael Pisco, and today I am joined by Zack Marker. Zack is the owner of Elves N Ladders Lighting in Philadelphia. They've been doing the business for years and they're absolutely crushing it. So I'm super excited to dive into everything with you today, Zack.
What's going on, Mike? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for starters, do you mind just giving me a little bit of background about your company, kind of what got you into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2018, I was laying in bed one day. I live in South Philadelphia, so if anyone's familiar with that. We have no land. All of our houses are connected. We're basically in the middle of the city. And so, I wanted to decorate my house for Halloween, but again, we have no land. We have nothing to really do. And so I figured, I wonder if people will pay me to decorate their house for Halloween. And, the little entrepreneur in my head was like, Christmas is a way bigger market. And so immediately I'm like, oh my God, I'm a genius. People would definitely pay me to hang Christmas lights. And I'm a genius because I'm the first one to ever come out with this. And then I did like 5 minutes worth of research and realized that there was a whole industry out there. So it was a bittersweet moment of, man, I'm not the first person to come up with this idea, but it's also a proven industry. So I think we could do really well with it. So 2019, I got a couple of friends together and I still had a full-time day job. So we got a couple of friends together. And I think that first year we did like 3 houses. And then, 2019, we did like 10 houses. Again, it was like a nights and weekends kind of thing for us. And then, 2020 happened, COVID happened, got laid off from my day job. And my wife looked at me like, hey, you got to get another job. And I said, I don't think I do. I think I'm going to try to be an elf for the rest of my life. And just like everybody who's ever said they want to hang Christmas lights for a living probably gets the same look. It's like, you're out of your mind, right? How much money you think you're going to make? And so I told my wife, if you let me focus on Christmas lights full time for that year, then I would sell $100,000 of Christmas lights. And she said, all right. And if you don't, then, you got to go back to the real world, get another job as an engineer, because that's what I was doing. And that year we sold 98,500. And I didn't hit the goal, but she'd seen that there was an upside to it. And so she let me run with it. And 4 or 5 years later now, I'm a full-time elf.
That's awesome. I love the wordplay you guys use within the business. Like you guys call it your employees, elves, and stuff like that on your website. And I think that's awesome for branding and really just making you guys stand out. But just kind of recap before we dive into things like that. So last year, what did you guys end up doing in terms of revenue and what type of, size in terms of employees and team members does business look like?
Yeah. So last year, 2023, we did 400,000 in revenue. I think it was like 402. And we did that with a team of about 6 installers to start the season. That dwindled down quickly just because anybody who has installed Christmas lights in the cold weather knows that your staff just shrinks as the season goes on. So started off with like 6 or 8, I want to say. Ended up the season with like 4. So we really dropped, which was up, from the previous year was about 300,000. So we went from 300 to 400,000 in that year. And all of that with 2 crews.
Nice. Okay. So would you say the average employee was producing about $50,000 worth of service per season?
Yeah, if you look at the numbers that way, I probably haven't dove into the numbers like that, but that's probably a good way to look at it. Yeah. So it's really weird because it's very skewed. We have I have one guy that's been with me for like 3 or 4 years, and he's amazing, and he keeps coming back every year. He is responsible for the most revenue, hands down. I sent him back in, or as early as now. So on Monday, we start hanging Christmas lights. Monday, September 9th, I think it is. We start hanging Christmas lights for commercial clients. And there's one commercial corridor that we do that we'll be at for 6 weeks. But it's not we'll be at it for 6 weeks. It's that one guy with a lift and the occasional helper that goes and helps him. So he's there for 6 weeks and he produces over $100,000 in revenue for us in those 6 weeks by himself. So I wouldn't just generalize it for our company, at least, to say each guy produces 50,000. We do have it's a pretty sloped scale for sure.
Okay, because I'd imagine he's also jumping into residential once that wraps up, so he's probably producing way more than the average employee. But I guess with that being said, what is your split from commercial versus residential work?
Yeah, so last year it was about 50-50. And again, that was a little bit skewed. We had, $130,000 commercial contract for one job. And then we probably had another 100 to 120 of commercial. So 250 out of 400. So whatever that math breaks out to be, would be commercial versus residential. We are definitely refocusing, I think, because the commercial is very hard for us to scale because everything is always so different. We're doing things one time in a season. It's a lot harder to train somebody to do things one time and then let them go do it. Where realistically, you're training them in the field, which means I'm in the field doing that with them to train them how to do it so that they can never do it again the rest of the season. It doesn't make sense for a lot of the things that come with the commercial world. So I think we're going to focus a lot more on residential this year. We're still obviously going to do commercial. If commercial comes to us, we're not going to turn it down, but we're really going to try and focus on that residential because I really believe that, the key to scalability is residential. We can teach somebody how to decorate a house top to bottom in a day or two, and then, send them out for an entire season to be able to go ahead and do that roof line, the bushes, the trees, the garland, the wreaths, all of that stuff. And if there's if there's commercial that looks like residential, then sure, that falls into that gap. But when you're doing things like tower trees, we do wall of lights, a lot of wall of lights. So, all of the little specialty things that come along with commercial where you really only doing it for this job, it's so much harder to train in a repeatable way to be able to send the crew out to go and do that. So I really think we're going to focus a lot more on residential this year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think commercial is great just so you have those bigger projects that brings in a good chunk of revenue all at once. But at the same time, like you said, it's not very scalable. It's not very repeatable. Once you do it once, you're not really doing it again because every project is so different. So it sounds like last year about 60% of revenue was commercial, but this time around, you're probably looking to switch that up and do more residential than commercial.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think right out the gate, we're going to be more residential than commercial because that $130,000 contract that we had last year was a one-time contract. So it was just the 1 year. The show that we put on for these people, they move every year, so we're not getting that back this year. So right there, that's half of our commercial down the drain. And another thing about residential is when you lose one client, it doesn't hurt you that much. When you lose a $130,000 client out of $400,000 of revenue, right? It stings a little bit. Even though we knew that it wasn't coming back next year, we already knew that from the beginning. We took the job, but we're like, now we went from 300 to 400, and now we're starting this year if everybody comes back at 270. So we're going backwards in a sense, which, it stings a little bit. So that's another reason that residential is going to be more of our focus. Now, the flip side to that, though, is that residential is way more competitive, right? Everybody can do residential, which is, it's more on the easy side. And I think because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. So all of the newer companies that are coming around, they're all focused on residential first, and they want to move up to commercial. And in my opinion, go for it, right? Go right to commercial if you want to do that. But for us, we're probably going to do more residential than we ever have this year.
Yeah. And so, just to make up for what was lost because of this contract, that was like a one-time thing, that's going to require a lot of new residential customers. So at what point of the year do you guys actually begin advertising for residential services? And I guess, what type of marketing strategies are you guys using?
Great question. So Facebook ads, Google ads. And let me preface this with saying last year, we just did some Facebook ads, and that was pretty much it.
For the Facebook ads we ran last year, do you recall what kind of the numbers look like? How did things go with that?
There was a ton of leads. I think we had 150 leads over the course of a month, which was really good. It's just we didn't do too much because we had that $130,000 job that took a lot of our guys a lot of time off the table for us to be able to do much. So we didn't put a lot into advertising. So in a sense, we were pretty profitable with that. But this year, we are doing Google ads, we're doing Facebook ads, we're doing yard signs, we're doing 5 rounds. We have a decent referral program now. So I think that encompasses most of what we're doing. We started Google ads yesterday, I want to say. Google ads, Facebook ads will probably start in about a week or so as well. And then the boots on the ground stuff, the the yard signs, the 5 rounds. 5 rounds will start when we actually start doing installs, which will probably be like first week of October. And then, yard signs will probably start around the same time, maybe a little bit earlier. We're planning on going, for lack of better words, balls to the wall on yard signs. We've never done it in the past. Everybody swears by it, so we're going to follow in that footstep and put out anywhere from 50 to 100 yard signs, a week.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, yard signs it's very hard for anyone not to see success with it. So for anyone listening in, yard signs is definitely one of those routes where if you go all in on it, get it out to as many different places and in good high traffic areas, it's really hard not to see a return on investment. And then to your point, you said 50 to 100 in just a single week. If you put them out, you get a good return on investment, then there's no reason you don't just keep, re-upping that every single week. Like, I'm assuming you guys are doing that throughout the entire season.
Yeah, so we'll probably, ramp up and then ramp back down, but pretty consistently throughout the season, we're doing at least 50, to 100, probably starting the last week of September or the first week of October. We're going to do that until we either run out of yard signs or we run out of time on the schedule. So that's definitely the plan.
Awesome. And so when it comes to the other forms of marketing, so typically like beginning of October, end of September is where people start yard signs and traditional materials like that. But when it comes to digital marketing, I mean, I feel like every single year people start earlier and earlier. So there's a lot of people that started even in July, if not just August. So I'm surprised you guys are only getting started now. Is there any reason why you guys are only starting your digital marketing in September?
One, just because I enjoyed my summer a little too much and it was a little late getting back into life. But it depends. So Facebook and Google, in my eyes, Google is, you use Google to catch people that are looking for your service. Facebook, you use Facebook to tell people about your service that might not even be looking for it. Right? So there's two different goals there. And I think that before Labor Day is tough to get people to care about Christmas. Right, so we really haven't done anything until before Labor Day, with the exception of our renewals. Right, we have about 220,000 signed up from last year already, but that's our returning customers, our renewals. That stuff happens over the summer. But in terms of marketing to new people, it's really hard to get people to care about Christmas that early in the year, and even in September. I mean, if you go on your Facebook right now and put up a Christmas post, you're going to have a couple of comments like, "Oh my God, Christmas already? Are you nuts?" It's just the way the world is. So it's very split down the middle of, "Oh my God, I can't wait for Christmas," or, "Oh my God, stop talking about Christmas. It's not even Halloween yet." So we try not to waste marketing dollars too early.
Okay, so it's essentially more so a thing of you could create the demand, but you could get better returns just waiting and putting all that money in September from there on out instead of earlier.
Yep, pretty much.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about just recurring work. So past residential customers, getting them to come back. I know you mentioned you guys aren't waiting till September for that. And at this point, you already have a lot of those people booked. When are you reaching out to past customers and how are you reaching out to them to get them to rebook?
Yeah, great question. So this year we started a little bit later than we normally do. I think all of our renewals went out like July 11th-ish. What we normally do is we would send our commercial ones out earlier, try to get them going, as early as the beginning of June. And even that's hard, but commercial seems to be a little bit easier to get on board. And the reason we start them earlier is because, like I said, we start putting up our first Christmas light next week from commercial. And so we try to get them on board as early as possible, build that schedule out properly, and make that as the most efficient that it could be. For residential, we usually start that, not long after we get the commercial done. So again, late June, early July. And the way we get them on board again is we just resend them their new contracts. So we have a lot of people, especially in residential, we do multi-year contracts. So we do 1, 3, and 5 year agreements. So right inside of Tinsel, the CRM that we use, you can build those contracts out, and then when it comes time for next year to renew that, you just clone and resend it out. So that's pretty much how we do it all. We send them all out at once, and then as they start trickling in, we mark them down. They get their invoices paid. We mark them down, get them on the schedule. And I think right now we're probably at about 85% renewed I think we're at about 200,000 renewed right now, out of what would be 270 if you take out that big $130,000 contract that we talked about earlier.
Got it. So essentially, in around July, you're sending out the past contracts all at once, basically, not exactly instantly, but all at once. And then over time, people start, filling out, paying invoices, things of that nature. So does that mean you guys are sending out text blasts, email blasts, calling people at all, or is it just simply sending them the email with the agreement?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So it all starts with the email. Send out that email, and we'll get a significant amount of response back right away. Wait a few days, shoot them a text. If we don't hear from them again, pick up the phone and call a couple days later. And then, you just get into that workflow of just like any other sales when they haven't responded yet, we just keep calling and figuring it out. We want to get an answer out of them, whether it's yes or no. We want to know so that we can, plan accordingly, obviously, especially with all of our renewals. So we have a lot of people, or not a lot, we have a handful of people that for some reason, they don't even want to talk to us until November 1st. And like, that's fine. We're not going to put your lights up until November 1st, but we would like to know if we want to, if you're going to move forward so we can plan accordingly, because when you call on November 1st, we might not have availability until December 1st. Right. And that's not good for me or them. So we really want to try and get everybody at least locked in. We do have some people that call us, say, hey, we're in, but do you mind if we wait a little bit to get that deposit in? And yeah, no problem. You've been with us for 3 or 4 years already. We know you're not going anywhere. We'll lock you in. We'll put that deposit on the schedule for maybe September 15th or October 1st if we have to, just to keep them going. But we'd much rather see them be on board, even without paying, than we would be an unknown.
Got it. Okay. No, that makes sense. So initially it goes out to everybody, and then from there, some people are filtered out because they engage with it and they fill it out right away. The people that don't, then you have manual touch. That's either a text, a call. Over time, people trickle out that actually sign up, pay the invoice, whatever it is. But then you have some people that still have yet to do anything. And so those are the people that are getting more manual attention over time.
Yeah, pretty much on the head. Yep.
Makes sense. Okay. So something you mentioned, which I think is really cool, is that you guys do 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year agreements. Can you talk a little bit about that and why someone would do a 3 or even a 5 year commitment with you guys?
Absolutely. If you give me one quick sec, I'll actually pull something up. So again, this is all through Tinsel CRM. This proposal here that we're looking at would be, here's all of your line items. And then below that, in this particular one, we offered a 3 and a 5, and they chose to do a 5-year agreement. The idea here is that the longer the agreement, the more you save. Right. So it doesn't necessarily mean we're discounting, but we're adding on for short agreements is the way we set it up. If they sign a 5-year agreement and only do it 1 year, then technically the difference would be between a 5 and a 1 year agreement would be 50% of that contract. So that's kind of how we arrive on that.
Yeah. And I think a big point too, and the reason this works so well is not because of, taking legal action or going to court if someone doesn't want to re-up on your services. It's really just more so the mindset that they're going into this partnership with, thinking I'm not just working with them this year, see how it goes. Like, I'm committed to them in the next 3 or 5 years. So they're not really, like you said, price shopping, looking for other options next year. They know they're locked in with you. So most people are not even, considering other options because they just know they're married for you for that next 3, 5 years, whatever it is.
Right. Exactly. And that's the end of the end of the day. That's the goal, is to treat our customers like family and never lose them. And, not that this locks them in. So like, even if we do treat them like shit, then, they can't run away. Like, that's not what we're trying to do at all. We want to make sure that all of our customers get, the highest treatment, the best treatment. We have notes that, if the customer has a dog, we put that dog's name in there so that when the crew goes back next year and they open up the app on their phone, they're going to go, all right, that dog's name is Lucky. And then they come in, oh, hey, Lucky, right? And the client's like, oh, you remembered his name. So it's just the little things like that to just keep us, in the forefront and keep that friendly attitude with that client.
That's awesome. Just changing subjects a little bit here. When it comes to, and I mean, it's still pretty on par with the topic, but when it comes to mockups and actually going through the sales process, showing them what their home could look like with the lights installed, how do you guys go about doing that?
If we wanted to, we can actually go ahead and build mockups right inside the CRM. And this is right inside the CRM. So what we can do, right out the gate is we can, click here, and we can go ahead and do that. all the way throughout this house. Right? I'm not going to do the whole house, but you get the idea. What I can do now is I can change the colors, maybe a warm white, or if the customer wanted a multi, we could do that. I could change the sizing, the spacing of the lights. We could do all of that fun stuff as well. And then, of course, we can add in, wreaths. We have, you can upload your own if you want. We have a couple of stock ones here. So I like to do this one because it looks more realistic, and then add a bow with it. Put those together. Hit that group button so that we can move them around together. Maybe put that right up in there. All right. And so obviously you can continue to do that, make this house look amazing. But it's super simple to do that. You can upload your own custom images as well. So obviously we put our logo on here so we can watermark our photos. If you had, any special projects or products that you use, like spritzer maybe, you can put that in here. You can hang those from the trees if you wanted to. Anything you want to do with it, you really can. And then once that's done, we can go ahead and save that, export it back to our files, and just like these photos are on the proposal, that photo would also show up right here as well.
Awesome. Okay. And so at what point are you guys actually showing them this mock-up? Are you doing it in person, showing them from your iPad? Is this a Zoom call? Are you just emailing them pictures?
Great question. So in the past, we've always just emailed them this link. And then, what we're seeing here is actually what the customer would see. So, they see their line items, they see the pricing, they see the photos. What we've changed partway through last year is that we're not sending anybody a proposal until we actually get them on the phone to be able to let us walk them through it. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's just more of a sales thing. If we sent this proposal out and they see, $2,400, they're closing that proposal and they're walking away. They're not even going to answer us anymore. But if we have the chance to walk them through and say, hey, listen, all of this stuff is quoted. And if you do a 3-year agreement, it's $2,400. Or if you do a 5-year agreement, it's $1,900 per year. And then we can gauge what they're saying. Oh man, I want to spend $1,500. Oh, if you want to spend $1,500, how about we do this? How about we just take this and this off? And then you can look at your new pricing. What do you think about that? Right? We have that chance to interact with them and overcome some of their objections. And it's not so much about being a used car salesman. We're just trying to get the sale. It's about finding out what their real needs are, what their real budget is, and then working to give them something in that world. And if you just send this out and let them look at these numbers, you don't have a chance to do that. So moving forward, and we did this for the last half of last year or last season, and it worked really well for us. That's what we'll be doing. So nobody gets a proposal until we can get them on the phone with 5 minutes to go over it with them.
Awesome. I love this. I think this is a really great strategy. Show people what it would actually look like, get them bought into what their home could look like. And obviously you have the different options so they can really customize it based on what they're looking to spend, how long they're looking to potentially work with you guys for. So I love that everything is really customized and tailored to the person you guys are selling. And then not only are you doing that, but in the back end, you're keeping track of notes, keeping track of who this person is, any unique things that you should know for future projects. So again, you can show them that you remember them, and you're still, even as you scale and become a larger company, you can still maintain that, locally owned, small, family-owned type business, which is great. With this being said, I think that really encompasses some of the main stuff in regards to the sales process. Are there any other little tidbits or takeaways that you could share before we wrap up here for the viewers, just that really you've seen success with or that's helped you with the sales process?
Yeah, speed to lead, 100% speed to lead. So something we haven't tracked in the past, but we are this year. Let's see if I have it open. We now are implementing this ginormous dashboard with all kinds of different reports on it. But at the end of the day, we're finding out exactly what time that lead comes in on which day. And then we are figuring out exactly, where is it somewhere, the time we give them that quote. All right, we're going to use that to measure how fast we can actually get a quote out to somebody. And then we're going to use that as a metric and, potentially build bonuses around it, or be it just another metric to use internally for us to be able to get these things out quicker. Track the progress of our salespeople, of our admin, the people that are calling, doing this calling, because without data, we're nothing, right? Without data, we're just shooting in the dark. And that's definitely one thing that me personally have spent a lot of time this past 12 months is really figuring out what data we need to see, and how we can actually visualize that and track that, and then building goals off of that data and going ahead and rewarding the good behavior, and I won't say scolding the bad behavior, but working with the people that have that bad behavior or the bad numbers, and just trying to build them up. So without that data, we can only go with, oh, well, I don't think he's working out, but I don't know. Or I
Yeah.
really think this person's doing good, but at the end of the day, they could be just average, right? You don't know. So we're really tracking that data.
That's awesome. Yeah, two major takeaways. One, speed to lead, whether it's Facebook ads or any other type of advertising. If someone requests a quote, if someone's requesting information and you don't respond as soon as possible, like they're just going to go to Google, search for other options, and then speak with someone that will get back to them right away. So speed to lead is massive. And then you also mentioned data-driven decisions. This is so important when you're making marketing decisions, hiring decisions, firing decisions, really any decisions with your business. If you're making emotional decisions, more often than not, you're probably making the wrong decision. But if you have the numbers in front of you, if you're making data-driven decisions, then it's very hard to mess up because you're going off the numbers and numbers don't lie. So those are two awesome takeaways, and I really appreciate you bringing that up because that's something we always hammer in. With that being said, this was super valuable. I really appreciate you coming on, Zach. For anyone that wants to learn a bit more about you and your business, where could they find you online?
Absolutely. So Facebook, Instagram, that whole nine. But you can always email me, Zach at Elves N Ladders, and elvesnladders.com. If you're interested in the CRM, you can go to tinselcrm.com, or you can email us at support@tinselcrm.com.
Awesome. Well, once again, Zach, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, Mike. Take care.